Okay, good morning to all of you. Whether the slide is visible, anybody else, please respond.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good
Okay.
morning.
So today we will start off a new topic. We have almost finished some of the important concepts of testing the procedural programs. Now we'll go for testing the object-oriented programs. What are the challenges in testing the object-oriented programs? Why not the same procedural testing techniques cannot be directly affect what applied to testing of object-oriented programs? We'll see some of the basic concepts. Then we'll go for this what the detailed techniques. So first we'll discuss a little bit about the introduction, some of the challenges in testing object-oriented programs, how to design test suite using UML diagrams. If time will permit, you will see some test design patterns. Otherwise, you will skip and conclusion. These basic concepts I have already told you. Like more than 50% of the development effort is being spent on testing of the software. You know that the quality and effective reuse of software it highly depend on to a large extent on thorough testing. How much thoroughly you have tested your software, that will guide you. That will say what will the quality and effective of your software. So the quality and effective reuse of your software largely depend on thorough testing. When the software testing techniques came up initially, they were satisfactorily applied to procedure-oriented programs. It was expected that during the initial years, at the beginning, that the object-oriented features it would help substantially reduce the testing effort, the testing cost, as object-oriented programming. They incorporate several good programming features, isn't it? The good programming features of object-oriented programming are what? Inheritance, polymorphism, classes, dynamic binding, in encapsulation, and so on. These are some of the good, important programming features of object-oriented programming languages, which are not there in traditional procedure-oriented programs. So initially, it was thought that due to presence of these features, maybe object-oriented testing will take less time, less cost, etc. But as we find them today, but as we find out it out today, that it only complicates the testing. These good features of object-oriented programming, it does not reduce the testing cost, the testing time, the testing effort. Rather, it only complicates the testing. It makes the life of the software tester much difficult. So let's see what are the reasons why testing of object-oriented software it becomes a huge problem nowadays. What are the challenges? What are the issues? What are the difficulties? So let's see first the complexity in testing. As I told that initially it was thought that due to the presence of these object-oriented features, testing object-oriented programs will be much easy. It may require less time, less cost, less effort, etc. But later on it was proved wrong. No, these are only making the life of the tester much difficult. Soon it was realized that satisfactory testing of object-oriented programs is much more difficult than that of the procedure-oriented programs. Testing the object-oriented programs, it requires, in fact, much more cost and effort in comparison to the procedural programs. As the various object-oriented features, they introduce additional complications and scope of new type bugs. So why there is a huge amount of cost and effort for testing object-oriented programs in comparison to traditional procedural programs? It is only due to what the additional complications and the scope of new type of bugs in object-oriented programs, because the object-oriented programs they have some object-oriented special features such as inheritance, polymorphism, encapsulation, dynamic binding, etc. And the presence of these features they introduce additional complications, additional difficulties in this testing of object-oriented programs. Also, there is a heavy scope. There is a scope of new types of bugs in object-oriented programs. So that's why testing the object-oriented programs becomes much more complicated. So at the various object-oriented features, they introduce additional complications and scope of new types of bugs. That's why the object-oriented programs they require much more cost and effort for testing them in comparison to the procedural programs. So you may have to design additional test cases. Additional test cases are needed to be designed to detect these new types of bugs. So what is today's focus? Today's focus is the following. Most reported research on object-oriented paradigms, they focus on analysis and design. Any research work you see, much of the research work, they focus on the OOAD part. That means object-oriented analysis and design. Now some improvement has already been done in object-oriented testing, but you see before 10 years, the much more focus was on object-oriented analysis and design. Very less focus was there on testing object-oriented programs. Gradually, researchers now they are working on testing of the object-oriented programs. So in this class, we will discuss some important issues in testing the object-oriented programs and what are the solutions for them. So before going to this testing of object-oriented programs, or even if the procedural programs, let's have a look at the fault model. What kind of faults may be present? The fault model means normally it represents different types of faults in a program. Okay, the fault model means it represents the different types of faults present in a program, and you know the number of faults in a program, it may be infinite for practical purposes. A fault model, what does it do? A fault model, it is a map of the possible types of faults. Okay, and this fault model is normally necessary to guide any rational testing strategy that you want to develop. A fault model may also be constructed from the analysis of failure data. If you are having similar projects from the past data, from the past failure data, you can also construct a fault model. Now let's look at some of the places to look for the faults. So some of the places they can trivially be omitted from a fault model. They are obvious. Some of the places they can be trivially omitted from a fault model. Suppose while you are writing a C program, so you say that I cannot make the English grammar mistakes when I am writing a C program. Okay, so this can be trivially omitted. Similarly, I cannot commit errors due to side effects while writing a Java program. So while you are writing a Java program, so you say that I cannot commit errors due to side effects. So some of the places are there which can trivially be omitted from a fault model. Now let's see what is a test strategy. A test strategy, it yields a test suite when applied to a unit under test. Okay, so it is when you will apply a test strategy, it will yield a test suite. Okay, so a test strategy, it yields a test suite when it is applied to a unit under test. Roughly, you can say it is a test methodology, a testing methodology or testing procedure. Some of the challenges in object-oriented testing, let's say. First challenge is what is an appropriate unit for testing. Then the implications of the special object-oriented features such as inheritance, encapsulation, dynamic binding, polymorphism, etc. What is meant by state-based testing? Test coverage analysis. Some of the integration strategies. We have already seen so many integration testing strategies. How it is difficult, how it is different for object-oriented testing. Then some of the test process strategies. We'll start with what is an appropriate unit for testing. Can you say what is the fundamental unit or the smallest unit of testing for conventional procedural programs? It's a function or a procedure. Okay, so it's called a function or a procedure. But now let's see for object-oriented programs, how does it differ? However, as far as object-oriented programs are concerned, what will the smallest units? So function cannot be small. So what is the can you say what is the equivalent of function in object-oriented programs? We call it a method. So methods are the equivalent things of function in object-oriented programs. So now can I say, as in case of traditional function-oriented testing or procedure-oriented testing, functions are the smallest unit. Can I say that the methods are the basic unit or smallest unit testing? The answer is no. Let's see why methods are not the basic unit testing. If methods are not the basic unit of testing in object-oriented programs, then what are the smallest units in testing of object-oriented programs? So before going to the answer, what are the smallest units in testing of object-oriented programs? So let's see one of the important axiom called as Weyer's anti-composition axiom. What does this axiom say? This axiom says that any amount of testing of individual methods cannot ensure that a class has been satisfactorily tested. Okay, so how much effort you may put for testing the individual methods, it cannot guarantee that a class has been satisfactorily tested. So what you have to do? You have to test a class thoroughly. And you know what is a class or what is an object? It is an encapsulation of what? The methods and the data. So if you just test the methods, it's not sufficient. We cannot guarantee that the class has been satisfactorily stated. So that's what Waker's anti-composition axiom says. It says that any amount of testing of individual methods, it cannot ensure that, it cannot give guarantee that a class has been satisfactorily tested. So then what is the justification? How will justify? This is the axiom proposed by Waker. How will justify this? The main justification for this Waker's anti-composition axiom is that I have already told you. An object is what? It is a collection of the methods and the data. And when we will say that we are testing a method you cannot just operate this alone. A method, it operates in the scope of the data and other methods of the object, isn't it? It cannot independently run a method or test a method. A method, it operates in the scope of the data and in the scope of other methods of its objects. So it is necessary to test a method in the context of this. You cannot test a method individually or alone. When you want to test the method, you have to test the method in the context of the data, along with the data, as well as along with the presence of the other methods. So it is necessary to test a method in the context of these. As you know, that as objects can have significant states, another reason I am coming, why method is not the smallest unit. You know that objects have different states. Example I have already given, taking about the account object. In a banking system, account object have several states. You are going to open an account, it is in the initial state. Or you can say new state. When you are making the initial amount of 1000 rupees, then it is the initial state. Then any number of deposits, any number of withdrawals you can make. Then that is known as the what? That is the working state. And then suppose you are not making any transaction for a year or so, then that becomes the idle state. And then when it is in idle state, you have to go to the bank manager, request him, give an application, then you make the transaction, then it changes its state from idle state to working state. Finally, when you leave, suppose your institution, you want to close this account, you have to go to the bank, then officially you close it, then that becomes the dead state. So in this way, every object has several states. It passes through several states, and the states can be changed when some transitions will occur. As objects can have significant states, the behavior of a method can also be different based on the state of the corresponding object. Okay, as objects they have significant states, so the behavior of a method can also be different based on what is the current state of the corresponding object. So I cannot test simply a method ignoring its state. Whenever I have to test a method, I have to say in which state it is. And state is not of a method, state belongs to the object. Object has a state. So the methods, they cannot be the basic units, cannot be the smallest units for testing object-oriented programs. Then what is the conclusion? What could be the smallest unit? Therefore, a method has to be tested with all other methods because it depends upon the scope. Therefore, a method has to be tested with all other methods and the data of the corresponding object, isn't it? A method, whenever you want to test, you have to know what are the data associated with this object, this method. So therefore, a method has to be tested with all other methods and data of the corresponding object. The second point I have already told you. Moreover, a method, it needs to be tested at all states that the object can assume. Whenever you are testing a method, you have to test in all its states. Not only that's in the working state of the bank account. You have to test it when it is in ideal state, when it is dead state, when it is initial state. So a method, it needs to be tested at all states that the object can assume. So it is quite improper to consider a method as the basic unit of testing an object-oriented program. Then what is the basic unit? What is the small unit? An object is the basic unit of testing of the object-oriented programs. Or in a larger sense, you can say class. An object or a class is the basic unit or is the smallest unit of testing of object-oriented programs. But I have already told you what the difference with testing object of function-oriented programs. In function-oriented programs, the smallest unit, the function or the procedure. But here I cannot take the function or the counterpart is method. Method cannot be the basic unit, and object or the class is the basic unit of testing of object-oriented programs. Okay. In object-oriented testing, unit testing is conducted by testing each object in isolation. So in object-oriented testing, how do we perform unit testing? In object-oriented testing, unit testing is conducted by testing each object in isolation. Okay. So now let's see what are the suitable units for testing object-oriented programs. So there are different levels. You'll see. I have already told you, in case of object-oriented testing, the unit testing is conducted how? It is conducted by testing each object or each class in isolation. The suitable units for testing object-oriented programs are different levels. Let's see. First, we'll see the class level. In class level, what do you test? So in class level, we perform testing the interactions between the attributes and methods, okay, of the class. So when we are performing testing at class level, we have to perform testing the interactions between the attributes and the methods. Okay. Now, at class level, testing interactions between attributes and methods must be addressed. Similarly, at class level also, what we have to do? We have to also consider the state of the object, in which state the object is, whether it is in working state, idle state, or dead state, or this initial state, whatever that may be. So at class level, at class level, the state of the object must be considered, or while performing class level testing, the state of the object also it must be considered. Then next comes, so when we are considering this unit testing in this function-oriented programs, that unit testing refers to here class testing and object-oriented program testing. Please remember what we have seen that 3 levels of testing in procedure-oriented programming or function-oriented testing. That is unit testing, then integration testing, then system testing. The corresponding levels in object-oriented testing are whatever you have known the unit testing in function-oriented testing. This corresponds to here class level testing because the smallest unit the object or the class. The integration testing, what we have seen in function-oriented program, here it corresponds to the cluster level testing. This is known as cluster level testing. So cluster level testing is equivalent to integration testing. And system testing is same. In traditional testing, we are saying system testing. Here also we are saying system testing. So what do we do in cluster level testing? What do we do? In cluster level testing, we test the interactions among a group of cooperating classes. So just in integration testing, what we are doing? We are taking the different functions also and the different modules. Then we integrate them. Then we test them. Similarly, the counterpart in object-oriented testing is cluster level testing. In cluster level testing, we have to test the interactions among what? Among a group of the cooperating classes. Here, a sequence of interactions is typically required to implement a visible behavior. Okay. So here, what we have to do? Here, a sequence of the interactions. Here, a sequence of the interactions is typically required for what? To implement a visible behavior. That is, and how you can represent the visible behavior? That is a use case, through a use case. I have already told you, system level testing is same both in function-oriented testing as well as in object-oriented testing. In system level testing, we test an entire operational system, which is same as that of the traditional function-oriented testing. So then actually we will see about the how do the different object-oriented features they affect the object-oriented testing. What are the object-oriented features? The object-oriented features are inheritance, encapsulation, polymorphism, dynamic binding. These are the different object-oriented features. I have already told you these object-oriented features, they do not make the life of the tester easy. Rather, the presence of these object-oriented features make the life of the tester much more difficult. How? So now next we'll see how do these object-oriented features complicate the testing of object-oriented programs. So this we will discuss in next class. But now we are having that ISEC inauguration, that conference, so I have to leave immediately. So sorry for discontinuing in between. This thing I will take up on tomorrow. And I think tomorrow again I may take the class at 4 o'clock or so. I will send the message. So 11 o'clock that other works are there. So I'll try to take the class at 4 o'clock. I will send the message. Thank you very much. Any doubt, please? So those who have registered for that ISEC, they may join that ISEC inauguration function now. So any doubt now? These things we will discuss in the next class. Any doubt, please come up.